Hey everybody, it's Mr. Carr again. Today we're going to be looking at 4.2 day 2, adding and subtracting our rational expressions. So, just like with adding and subtracting fractions, we have to have a common denominator. So that's why the first thing we're going to do, well, technically the first thing we could check for is whether or not we can factor denominators. We cannot here, so we're going to move on. But that's why we're going to find our LCD. Our least common denominator for 4x and 7. So remember, two levels to it. We look at the coefficients are 4 and 7. So 4 and 7, the LCD of that is going to be 28 because both of those can multiply up to 28. Additionally, because I have an x right here, x needs to be part of my LCD as well. So the goal here is to turn both of these into fractions over 28x. So the step 3 here is to multiply the top and bottom by what's missing from the bottom. Well, and I say bottom, I really mean from the LCD here. So 4x needs to multiply by 7 to make it look like 28x. But if I multiply the denominator by 7, do the same thing to the numerator. So 7 times 3 is 21. 7 here, make it look like 28x. I do have to multiply by 4 here, but I got to multiply by 4x. That's how I can get it to 28x here. Multiply the same thing here. So we got 21 over 28x minus 4x over 28x. The last thing is to add or subtract and simplify if possible. The only other thing I can do here is put together as one fraction, and it looks like this. It'll be as a rational expression, it'll be 21 minus 4x over 28x. And that's it for this problem. There's no other simplifications. When I do problems like this, we don't have to factor. LCD, if I look at these as factors, my LCD is actually x minus 3 times x minus 1. The reason why is because I can take this and turn it into this. I do that by multiplying it by x minus 1. So I do the same thing to my numerator, x minus 1 here. For the other one, we multiply this one by an x minus 3. So for when I do this one, though, I'm going to make this plus a negative 2. It's going to be much easier to subtract them if I make that a negative 2. So now I'm going to go ahead and put these together. It'll be an x minus 3, x minus 1 as my new denominator. For the first part, I'm going to have x times both of those. That's going to give me x squared minus 1x. And then negative 2 is going to distribute. This is why I made it a plus a negative 2. Makes it a little bit easier to distribute if it looks like that. So that's going to be a minus 2x and then a plus 6. Add together my like terms. I've got negative 1x and negative 2x. So this turns into x squared minus 3x plus 6 over x minus 3, x minus 1. Sometimes it's worthwhile to double check if you could potentially factor this in case you can simplify, which I cannot. Nothing multiplies to 6 and adds to a negative 3. So this one's done. This is my final answer right here. Okay. Here's one that we're going to have to factor first. So step 1, factor out when you can. So in this case, x squared and a negative x negative 12, that's an x minus 4, x plus 3. Here I can factor out a GCF. So I take a 12 out. I'm going to have x minus 4 left over. Now I want to find my LCD. My coefficient here of 12, that needs to be part of the LCD. So it's going to be right there. I have an x minus 4 in common, so I'm going to put that right there, already in common. And then the last part is the x plus 3. So everything that's in common is just going to be part of my LCD one time. And then everything else that's not in common, but still in at least one of them, needs to be part of the LCD. So from there, again, the goal is I want to turn both of these denominators into this. So we need to multiply by what's missing. So in the first case, I'm missing the 12. So I'm going to multiply that by 12 and 12 like that. In the second case, I'm missing an x minus 3. So I'm going to multiply by an x minus 3 right there. Okay. That's how I can create this LCD for both of them. So it's going to be over this now. We got 12 times x is 12x. We got a positive 5 being distributed, so it's a positive 5x minus 15. My last step to simplify is just combine my like terms. So I can put these two together like that. So that gives me, sorry about that, 17x minus 15 over 12 times x minus 4, x plus 3. And that's it. Okay. I got two more examples. Same concept every time. Factor, find our LCD, multiply everything up to that common denominator, and then simplify. So no factoring here, but I could factor out a 3x. Makes it x times 1 or x plus 1 there. So for my LCD, it's going to be made up of, if I look at 9 and 3, it's a 9. That's the least common multiple of 9 and 3. I have an x squared and an x, so x squared is going to be in my common denominator. Okay, it's the higher exponent. And then I have an x plus 1. So I can multiply what's missing. 9x squared is already there. I'm missing x plus 1. So that gets multiplied to the first fraction. Here, I'm missing an x because it's only an x instead of x squared, and I'm missing a 3. So I'll multiply this by 3x here. So we'll distribute that. My new LCD again is 9x squared, x plus 1. This will be 7x plus 7, and 3x times x is going to give me a positive 3x squared. There's nothing else to combine here, so I'm just going to rewrite it in descending order. So 3x squared plus 7x plus 7 all over 9x squared times x plus 1. Okay. All right, last one. So same thing as before, we're going to factor. So x minus 3, x minus 1, 2 times x minus 1. For an LCD, we're going to have 2 from here. We have x minus 1 being repeated, so I'll just write it 1 time. And then I have an x minus 3. So we're going to put everything into this new denominator. So we're missing x minus 3 here, so that gets multiplied by that. This one's missing a 2. So again, this is going to be a little bit, it's interesting. So we're going to multiply this by a 2 here, but we still got to be subtracting it. So I'm actually going to do this. I'm going to multiply it. Instead of doing it that way, I'm going to put the 2 in the front here and make it a negative 2. That takes care of the subtraction part. So negative 2 needs to distribute, and I need to distribute with the x minus 3, x plus 2. So as a reminder, this is what my distribution looks like with x negative 3, x and positive 2, x squared, negative 3x, 2x, and then negative 6. Combine those, I get x squared minus 1x minus 6. And then here I got negative 2 times negative 2 is a positive 4x and a positive 2. Okay. So I can combine my like terms to finish this out. I'm going to have x squared, negative 1 plus 4 is a positive 3x. Negative 6 and 2 is going to make it negative 4, all over 2 times x minus 1, x minus 3. And actually, this is a case where we can double check if we can factor here, which I can. That's going to be a plus 4 and a minus 1 over 2 times x minus 1, x minus 3. These will actually cancel each other out. So this is going to simplify in the end as this. So it's always a good thing to check if you can factor and cancel anything else. Simpler, if you can simplify even more like that at the end. But that is it for this lesson. So we got some variety of tricky ones there, but the concepts are all the same. We are looking at these 4 steps. Factor out the denominator when you need to. Find an LCD of both coefficients and variables. And then we multiply the top and bottoms by what's missing from that LCD so you can make them all the same, and then you can do your adding and subtracting. All right, that's it for today. Take care, everyone.